I may not be at a fine dining establishment right now, but I'm still serving up a large glass of wine. I just have to complain and rant about something in this video that's just been grinding my gears for quite some time now because the problem still exists and it's not getting any better in the industry. So stand back, you're about to enter the splash zone. I'm about to get real passionate, which means I'm gonna start spitting. How can it possibly be that 2023 years after the death of Christ, we are still releasing games with a dog shit PC port? How are we not learning from past mistakes, from previous sins of our fathers, from the countless other awful PC ports that have ruined games? Why is this still not only a problem, but actually getting worse? It makes no sense. This is actually a SpongeBob, how many times we have to teach you this lesson, old man moment. It'll be no surprise what prompted this video. It was the Star Wars Jedi Survivor game. I'm sure all of you have read the headlines and seen the reviews about how awful the performance is on pretty much every platform, but most notably PC. Unforgivably bad on PC for most people. Now, I'm currently playing it on PC, and not only was installing it an unbelievable headache because we've entered the age where no one gives a fuck about actual optimization at all. So it was a 128 gigabyte download, and then after that was finished, I got fucking slapped, double-fisted with the 129 gigabytes of unpacking that needed to come after the 128 gigabyte download. For that fucking file size, I felt like I was downloading another human being onto my computer. Shit had me installing an entire new solar system onto my SSD. I feel bad for anyone, like my heart is breaking for anyone that doesn't have like top-of-the-line internet because this probably still isn't even done downloading for you on PC right now. You probably still have another week or two on that, baby. You gotta let that shit cook, because it is rough. They don't bother compressing things anymore, I guess, and they just let it take up as much space as possible, as if it's some kind of like achievement if they take up like fucking 140 gigabytes or whatever. It's ridiculous. But that's not even the big point here. So on PC and pretty much everywhere else, you will probably not be getting 60 frames per second. And I know, oh, entitled gamers wanting 60 frames, oh, that's so goofy. Well, bah humbug to you as well, Ebenezer Scrooge. If you're paying $70, this is a $70 game, if you're paying $70 and not even getting the bare minimum of performance, then you are a cuck if you're trying to defend that. When you're paying that kind of money, you should be getting high quality product for it. But there is not a single report I have read from anyone that is able to maintain a consistent 60 frames per second with this title, no matter what you're running. You could be running the state-of-the-art quantum computational technology, absolute, $100,000 hardware, 4090s out the fucking wazoo, and you will still not be getting 60 frames per second in this game consistently. Mudahar recently made a video going over it. I'm sure you've all seen all the articles. Most people are getting between 40 and 50 FPS, no matter what they're running. And for a lot of people's machines, seeing 40 FPS is like finding a shiny Pokemon. Getting 40 FPS for some people's machines is a fucking accomplishment in and of itself, deserving of a trophy and a pat on the ass. It is ridiculous. A lot of people are getting 30 FPS. It's just in a terrible state. And one other thing that I should mention with Jedi Survivor, though it doesn't apply to every bad PC port, but it certainly does for this game, is that it uses Denuvo DRM. I'm sure you've all at least heard of Denuvo before. It's become the boogeyman of DRM because it has been shown to make game performance worse. To what extent and exactly how big of an effect it has on performance is always a bit of a toss-up and a case-by-case basis on the game itself, but it does have a proven negative effect on the performance of a game. The reason companies use Denuvo is because they're all so fearful of piracy that they take the nuclear option and choose Denuvo to try and protect it, though even in those cases the games still end up getting cracked and people still pirate them. It just takes them a little longer, which I guess for the company execs might be worth it, but you sacrifice the actual performance of your game for your paying customers in order to give yourself like an extra week of no piracy. But what ends up happening, and I'm getting a little sidetracked here because this is a little off the path that I wanted to talk about with just bad PC ports in general, but Denuvo in particular, what ends up happening is when a game has this and a normal person buys the game, like me, I buy the game, I'm subject to that Denuvo DRM. And that makes my game's performance worse, whereas the people who pirate the game that are taking a week before it comes out, or 2 weeks, whatever, they now get that game without Denuvo, thus their performance is actually better than the paying customers. That's ridiculous. That's so fucking ass backwards, it's laughable. It's almost poetic. In their delusional attempts to combat piracy, they end up encouraging it by offering pirates a better product if you pirate the game than paying customers. It's so wild. And in Jedi Survivor's case, it's even more lunacy because the Denuvo, the DRM, all of it is so extreme that if you try and load this game on what it deems is too many computers, it'll shut you out from even playing the game. Look at this screenshot here. There have been players reporting that because of Denuvo, they've been locked out of the game because it thinks that they're playing it on multiple computers, thus it's like, combating piracy. When that's not even what's happening. It's out of control. It's totally out of control. But back to just general PC ports being terrible and like a trend of this going on, it's still unforgivable to even be getting 40 and 50 FPS in this day and age and paying full price for the game, which has become kind of the trend in the industry, which is so weird, and why I'm talking about it, because this isn't like some rare exception. This isn't some unicorn where like, oh man, somehow they fucked up a PC port. How could they have done that? No, this is like super normal. Right now, we live in the time period where it's push it out and we'll fix it later. Just ship it and we'll fix it somewhere down the line and that should be fine. Which is trash. That's horrible business practice. And what's even sadder is the amount of brainwashed drone zombies that defend this and actually attack people that call it out, saying that they're just entitled gamers. How can you be demanding this from developers to get it right off rip, to get it perfect when they ship it? This is silly. You're being a bunch of goobers. Obviously they're going to fix this game at some point. They treat it like it's a fucking NFT investment or something, like, oh, it's gonna be great at some point. And yeah, maybe sometimes it does get fixed, most notably Callisto Protocol. That shipped in the worst state I've ever seen for a PC port. It was borderline unplayable with how fucking bad that was, but they fixed it shortly thereafter. But I don't think that's really excusable. I'm glad they did the right thing and made it work, made it functional. But it shouldn't have ever shipped that way. It's not like they didn't know these problems existed. It's not like this all of a sudden came out of nowhere, like, oh my god, there was a fucking ghost in the machine and it corrupted everything right when it launched. No, they would have been aware of it, but they still decided to ship it anyway in that state just to meet the deadline. I'm glad it got fixed, but it doesn't change any of the damage done to the initial buyers here, and it ruined the reputation of that game forever, completely fucking tarnished it, wiped their ass with it. And right now that's happening with Star Wars Jedi Survivor. A game, when it launches, should be in a good state. Bugs, of course, are always going to be there. I never really hold bugs against a company too harsh unless they're obviously game-breaking and like maybe there's an incredible amount of them. But I understand bugs are always going to be present. There are just some things that you can't always get in QA testing. But just performance problems like never getting 60 FPS, constant stuttering, those kind of things, they're there when the game's about to ship. Now, like I said, I want to make this clear. I'm currently playing through Jedi Survivor. I am not experiencing most of the problems that the majority of PC users are with the title. I'm not getting a crazy amount of stuttering. It's definitely there. It is prevalent, but it's not like game ruining or anything like that. And I know I'm not getting 60 FPS. I think I'm more in that 45, 50 FPS ballpark, but I don't really feel like putting up the FPS counter to double check. I just know it's not 60. It's pretty clear. And I'm okay with that playing throughout the game, but I'm not happy that I was charged $70 for a game that can't even reach like the absolute baseline of performance in 2023. I'm enjoying the game because I think the gameplay is good and I'm enjoying the story so far, but I am extremely disappointed in the performance of it. I would obviously like if this game was hitting 60, it would be better. But I'm not having the worst time with it because I've been lucky enough to not experience most of what other PC players are. So I just wanted to get that out there real quick. But anyway, Jedi Survivor developers, they put out a statement today on Twitter, and I want to kind of go over that as well real quick. We are aware Star Wars Jedi Survivor isn't performing to our standards for a percentage of our PC players, in particular those with high-end machines or certain specific configurations. Within the first sentence here, just a full poopy diaper on display. It's not a percentage of PC players, it's all of them, whether it's high-end machine or not. Also, it's not performing up to the standards that you'd expect in 2023 for consoles either. Console performance isn't amazing, it's just PC performance is worse. So that's where most of the conversation has been focused, is on PC. But the entire game itself is so fucking poorly optimized and not great performance. While there's no single comprehensive solution for PC performance, the team has been working on these fixes we believe will improve performance across a spectrum of configurations. We're committed to fixing these issues as soon as possible, but each patch requires significant testing to ensure we don't introduce new problems. Thanks for understanding and apologies to any of our players experiencing these issues. We will continue to monitor performance across all platforms and share update timing as soon as it is available. Star Wars Jedi Team. So this is baloney. We're looking at an actual load of horseradish here. These aren't problems that were brand new once the game shipped. They would have been aware of these. But because of the higher-ups at the company, I imagine suffocating, fucking strangling them like Bart Simpson's neck, making sure that they're going to be on time for the deadline, they forced the game to come out as scheduled, as slated, which didn't give them the optimal time to refine the performance problems. Thus, now they're going to have to play catch-up and be eating shit publicly for this in the meantime. And even after they fix it, they will still eat shit for releasing a game that was poorly optimized with terrible performance. It's just a lose-lose. Like, the only benefit here is to the higher-ups at their bottom line, like, look at all these day one sales. But then there's going to be a drastic drop-off because of all the negative press, because everyone's talking about how fucking awful the game is because of the performance. No one's talking about the game being good right now, and the game is good. I'm having a great time with it. The gameplay is fucking fantastic. Like, I actually think I'm enjoying the gameplay more than in Fallen Order. But no one's talking about that because everyone's focused on how awful the game performs. That takes precedent over a good game. If you release a game that is shittily made, right, if it doesn't run well, that's all people are going to focus on. For obvious reason. I will just never understand this speed run to get games out no matter the cost. Come hell or high water, this game's going out there even if we left in all kinds of game breaking problems. Who gives a fuck as long as it's out there in the wild? That's what matters. It's dumb. You would stand to gain far more from a good PC port and a well optimized game. I can't wrap my head around it. I understand that there's so much bureaucracy to it now that maybe it's just totally out of the hands of the developers and really just in the hands of the suits that force it. So there's only so much they can do. I really do think that's probably a large part of it. It's not like the developers want to release a game that they know is in a bad state because they're the ones that catch the most flack for it. I mean, that's just the way it is. So I'm sure they don't like it either. It's just such a shame that this keeps happening with good games. It is very rare to have a good PC port these days, which is crazy to me. I feel like we should have learned from the past, where when you have a good PC port, everybody wins. You get more customers, it has a long life now on the PC as well. Everyone wins when you make a good PC port to a game. I just don't understand why it continues to be an issue. Fucking Last of Us, the PC port they released, is a joke. Like, it just continues to happen. Why? I really don't understand why there is not any amount of care given to these PC performances for their games, when there is really only upsides to it. I just wanted to rant about this because obviously I play most of my games on PC. I do still console game occasionally, but it's pretty rare. Almost everything now I do is on PC. So it just always hurts to have such a shitty experience for these good games because they didn't bother to put any amount of polish on the PC port. So I just wanted to rant about that, and that's about it. See ya.